Hi everyone, it's Dr. Lalitaa here. Right, today's video is all about why. Why is this relationship with ourselves so important? Why do people keep saying, develop that relationship with yourself, understand yourself? Why? Like, why is it important? So today's video is all about that. Now, the way that we see the external world. So we have two different types of worlds. We have our internal world and we have the external world. The internal world is everything that's going on within, like up here. Everything starts from our mind. Everything starts from our thoughts. And everything from our thoughts is fueled into the reality that we create. And that is why everyone's reality is different. Everyone's version of the way that they're living their life is very different because of what's going on up here. And everything that goes on up here comes from your experiences growing up. So developing that relationship with yourself is very important because it helps you to change your reality if you want to change it. It helps you to develop your reality if you want to develop it. So it's very, very important. Now, how do we go about developing that relationship with yourself? And that's what I've been speaking about in other videos, is to focus on doing things for yourself or to sit with yourself and really just start understanding what's going on up here, because that's something that we're taught to not focus on. We're not taught at school to how to connect with your thoughts. But now nothing is stopping you from connecting with your thoughts. The only person stopping you is yourself. So let me give you an example of a client I was working with. I was working with a client. He was in his late 30s. He had a very successful business, but he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with his business. And as we started understanding his business and understanding the life that he was living, he realized that he wasn't living a life that he was content with. He wasn't living a life that he was happy with. So we went backwards and started understanding what was going on. And the key ingredient that he was missing, actually, he wasn't even missing it. It was there all along, but he just needed the right tools in order to access that missing. I don't want to keep using the word missing because it's not missing. How to access that light that was within him. So the key ingredient that was unavailable to him was him seeing the light within him. So from a very young age, he was taught that he wasn't good enough, and he grew up believing this. So he developed a business. As he developed a business, he started to get a lot of people giving him praise, and this felt good for him. It felt really, really good. People liked him. People were connecting with him. And when people asked him for money, he would give them money, and he would just hand it out. So when we started working together, we started to understand what this was about. And it was about the praise that he got, the feeling that he felt when he gave something to someone, and his perception of them liking him, because he didn't like himself. So he developed a reality around him to fuel this sort of something that he thought was missing within him. But actually he had it there all along. He just didn't know how to access it. So that light that was missing within him, once he gained access to that, it changed everything for him. Because remember, everything starts from within here. So once we change what's going on up here, everything around you will change. So he changed the relationships that he was with. He never really used to go out with friends because he didn't know how to maintain friendships. And he was afraid of not being good enough for friends. So he kept himself in a place where people would just like him for the sake of liking him. But again, this was his view. This is what he thought was quite safe for him to stay in this place. And again, this wasn't happening on a conscious level. It was happening on a subconscious level. So he developed relationships based on him feeling safe and him feeling good enough. So he was giving a lot. So he was giving to the friends, but it's provided a need for him. So he wasn't getting what he wanted back from these friends. He wasn't being stimulated. He wasn't being understood because he was hiding that away from his friends. And he didn't even realize this until we started working together and until he started working on himself and understanding why he was the way he was. So his friendships changed. His relationships changed at work. He became more of an effective leader, where when he needed to give feedback to someone, he was able to give feedback without worrying of upsetting them. Because his view was, if I upset them, they're no longer going to like me. And as we started working, it was actually something that happened very early on in his life, where he was told that he was never going to be successful and he was never going to be liked. And it was actually by a group of friends that he was told this at school. So he started changing the way he was at school, and this just continued. This pattern of behavior continued. If we don't understand these patterns of behaviors that we're presenting within the external world, they're never going to change. And often people are very fearful of connecting with themselves because they're afraid of what they'll find. But actually the best success that you can have is first by understanding yourself, first by communicating with yourself. Another example with that is I was working with another male, and the male that I was working with, he had a very difficult relationship with food. And again, the relationship that he had with food came from his relationship with himself. He didn't like who he was. He said he didn't look in the mirror. He said he just avoided the mirror at all costs. The only time he would look in the mirror was to shave, and that was it. After that, he said, I avoided it. I didn't like looking in it. And I said, what about if you just put on your clothes and you looked in the mirror? And he was like, no, I just don't like looking at myself. So we started to change that. Again, everything happens at a very young age, and this is where our blueprint is created. We develop this, and this becomes a pattern in our lives. But actually, in order to change it, we need to go back and understand where these patterns have started from in order to then move forward with life. So he developed a very challenging relationship with food. He became an emotional eater. Food was his friend, but food was his enemy. Food gave him love, but food also gave him hate. And actually, this was all a reflection of what was going on within his internal world. Why do I say that? I say that because actually he didn't like who he was. And because of that, he turned to food in order to cope with the way that he was feeling about himself, but also avoid the way he was feeling about himself. So he turned to food, and food made him feel good. Food comforted him. But then as he continued to move forward, he realized, no, I don't want this food. But then he felt the guilt and the shame of eating the food. And then he didn't know what to do. So he'd just hate on himself. He'd sabotage himself. He'd not go out with friends. He'd not make or communicate with friends because he thought, what's the point? No one's going to like me. But actually, that was all down to the way that he felt about himself. And the view that he had of himself was, I'm not good enough. So I say this again, why? Why do we need to understand the relationship that we have with ourselves? And yeah, we do, because it helps us change the reality around us. And it helps us. It's mind, body, soul, and spirit. And if we can connect all of these different things, because it's not just about what's going on up here. It's about the fueling that we're giving our bodies. It's the way that we're treating our bodies. This all gives us or tells us more about what's going on within your internal world. And again, even with patterns of behaviors, if you're not looking after yourself, there's a reason for that. If you go through, like, for example, let me give you an example with diets. There's so many people that go on diets, and they may go on for 2 weeks, and then after that, it's like, no, this isn't right for me. But diets, we know diets don't work. Just the terminology diet, that's it. Subconsciously, your mind's like, no, we're on a diet, and all you're thinking about is food. So when you're wanting to lose weight, it's not just about losing the weight, it's about the way that you feel about yourself. That all comes into play with the emotional eating, and the way that you treat yourself. It's not just about how it's, if someone says, oh, should we go out tonight, and you're feeling really, really tired, but you're just like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll come, because you're saying it because you feel like you need to, because otherwise you're going to miss out, or because people aren't going to like you. It's first checking in with yourself. Check in with yourself. Do I want to go out tonight? Am I happy going out tonight? Do I feel up to going out tonight? Do I not have enough money to go out tonight? So looking at the whole picture, not just focusing on what you think that you need to do. Take a step back, reflect, observe, understand. If you need to talk to yourself, go away and talk to yourself. I do it. I sometimes step away. I'll talk to myself, be like, right, what do I need to do today? Or how am I feeling about this right now? There's nothing wrong with it. It's just you checking in with yourself. That's all it is. And it's not thinking too much about what other people are thinking about you. But that takes me on to my next video. My next video is all going to be about judgment and about the expectations that we create from the judgments that we perceive. So it's really interesting. So yes, going back to the why is very important. And if you're struggling to understand why should I look after myself, or why should I connect with myself? Why should I communicate with myself? Why should I do these different things? Perhaps that's saying something already about the relationship that you have with yourself. Perhaps that's saying something about you not wanting to put yourself first, because perhaps you're conditioned in a way not to put yourself first. Everyone reaches a point where they do want to look at themselves, or they know that there's something that doesn't feel right. But again, it comes back down to when you feel ready to do it. I have clients who come, they start therapy, they start coaching, and they think, you know what, this is too much for me. I can't deal with it because of the emotions that they're feeling in that process. And that's okay, because everyone's on their own journey and we have to accept that. And we can only help as much as we can help, as much as you help yourself. We can only meet you 50%. It's like you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink the water. I think that's the way it said. Yeah, you can let me say that again. You can take the horse to the water, but you can't make the horse drink the water. That's up to the horse to do. The horse is feeling thirsty enough, it will drink the water. If it's not, it won't. And you can't force that horse to drink the water. It's the same in real life. You can't force people to look at themselves. They need to look at themselves once they are ready. Okay, right. Thank you very much. Have an amazing day and take care, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.